Hi, I'm Nick Vitellari, and welcome to Road to Reinvention 2018 conference. I'm here with Oren Goldschmidt, who's the president of Pivotus Ventures. Oren, glad to have you here today.
Good to be here.
It's great. And, you know, you've been doing a lot of thinking about the future of work, but particularly around skills and change in this digital era. And, you know, everybody's talking about the cadence of work. You know, will jobs be around that we've taken for granted? What's going to happen with that? So I guess that's where I'd like to start is, you know, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with the future of work.
Yeah, and I think this one is an interesting one because the problem is not a completely novel one. And I like to use the example of the Charlie Chaplin movie, Modern Times. And I think most people have seen that, right? Some of the classic scenes in that movie where it was really, I mean, it was like a lot of those movies, the Chaplin movies, they were thinking about deep social issues, and this one was about how mechanization, the industrial age, was really changing what it meant to be a worker. And I think if you think about the way people looked at change then, it was, you know, the machine, you know, he was a factory worker, the machine would try and feed him a sandwich so he didn't have to stop, and everything it went wrong, and it would, you know, the food went everywhere and it was a total mess, and he was traumatized by the event and kind of ran amok in the city. And that's a problem we're still worrying about, which is fascinating. What I think is different now is that we have the tools and the capabilities to do something different. Because you think if Amazon was designing the machine that fed Charlie Chaplin a sandwich, right, it wouldn't just stuff a random sandwich down his throat. It would know when he was hungry and what he wanted to eat, and it would calibrate the sauces, and he would have a decent dining experience, right? And that what's changed is the ability to use data and machine learning and AI to match the systems, the machines, to what the humans need. And we usually think about that in terms of customer experiences, right? We think about that in terms of how can I sell you more ice cream? How can I sell you more products? How can I recommend the right movies to you? But those technologies are equally applicable when you're thinking about how do I help you become more efficient? How do I provide force multipliers for humans? So if you like, in some ways, this is usually a doom and gloom scenario. We talk about the future of work. There will be no more jobs. There will be robot engineers or batteries for the machines. But really, I think the opportunity is, if we do this right, is to create amazing technologies that are force multipliers for the work that we do and will do and want to do, that use AI and ML to really create a perfect interface between the human and the machine. And that's what I'm excited about.
That's very exciting. So are you talking about, when I hear that, are you talking about envisioning a continually adapting relationship between the human and machine based on, you know, interaction?
Yeah, I mean that's one of the traits of AI, right? Is that it continues to learn.
Yeah.
I think the important thing there is the ethos that you're building an interface that is designed to make the human as productive and powerful as possible and doing what the human can do. And I'll give you an example from what we're doing. So one of the things we're doing is looking at how humans build and manage relationships. And we're in banking, so it's how a retail banker builds and manages a long-term relationship with a client, which is something that retail banks have done for 150 years in the branch. But now everything's going digital. So how do you do that in a digital space?
Interesting.
And how do you do it efficiently? How do you let a human manage 1,000 relationships, 2,000 relationships at scale? And so if you think about what the AI would do there is it would give that human a force multiplier. How do I help them find the urgent queries? How do I help them remember what they need to remember to have a deep conversation, an understanding, empathic conversation with someone they may not have talked to for 6 months or a year? So the technology becomes a force multiplier to do something incredibly human, which is manage a relationship. And I think we'll see more and more of that. Again, if we do this right. If we do this right, we'll be creating tools that make humans superhuman rather than obsolete.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's definitely a much more positive scenario in the midst of all this discussion, right, of disruption and so on. So one more thing. So if you're, you know, obviously a lot of leaders are concerned about this. because they see their workforce, they try and understand where are their companies going, how are they going to manage it, how are they going to deal with it, what role does technology play in all of this. And so if there was one thing that you could impart to leaders today, that are confronting these questions in this digital era, what would it be?
Well, I think about your workforce if you think about the workforce as an asset, and we all do, but truly think about them as an asset and think about less about how we deal with, we must think about how we deal with disruption and change and changing jobs and how we help cushion the impact of that. But if we also invest in how to take that asset and amplify it, so center on the customer, absolutely, but also center on your employees and how you can make them more effective with these digital technologies. If you do that, you'll have an easier problem to solve. There'll be less disruption because people will be moving smoothly into positions where they're using that technology to amplify what they do.
So Oren, thank you very much for sharing with us today. Really appreciate it. So that's Oren Goldschmidt, president of Pivotus Ventures, talking to us about what's going to happen in this world of digital revolution. Thank you. Thank you.